How come you spell my last name? Oh, Jesus, I spelled her last name incorrectly. Ramsay.
I'm not going to see that, so it no matter.
No, no, that's her name. I think on the YouTube channel. Oh Lord.
Can't change that now. All right, you ready?
Yes. Hello, and welcome to another episode of Mindset Monday. Today is Monday, June 16. The month is it's at the middle of the month and the middle of the year. I hope you're on track with all your plans and all your purpose are on schedule. And if it's a little off schedule, you still have time to get it done. Today, we are here giving thanks for another beautiful day. And I hope you had a wonderful day at work or play. Or if you're still commuting, I hope your commute is somewhat comfortable. We are still in our series of abundance in service. And we've been learning a lot about all of our guests who parade our platform. And today you will hear from one of our guests who've been here before in a different capacity. She will share with us abundance in service. And we know that in life, it's never a smooth road. Just like you have an entire city. You have highways and you have the inroads, and then you have some potholes. So that's the way life is. You have some smooth spots, then you have some rough roads, and you have the areas that you wish you did not have to go through, but that's life. Today, we are here to share with you how you can pivot through the different twists and turns of life and still be a servant, still be serving abundantly. We know that we are all here for a purpose and we are all here to operate in an era of gifting. And we are going to share with you today Tenssie Veronica Ramsay, MSNCC LPC. Tenssie Ramsay is a licensed professional counselor with over 10 years of experience serving in the mental health field. Her specialty involves individuals, couples, family, domestic violence, and group counseling. She works in inner city Bridgeport, Connecticut, with a caseload ranging from children, adolescents, young people, and the older population. Tennessee is also a qualified Circle of Security, COS, facilitator and an instructor for the Parent Education Program, PEP. Tensei attends the University of Bridgeport, where she gained her MS in clinical mental health, and later attained her licensure through the Connecticut State Department of Public Health. Tensei is versed in her field, and you will understand when she speaks. She has a wide range of knowledge in different areas. She was employed in the same non-for-profit agency where she did her internship after college until December 2021. Kenzie started her private practice shortly after leaving the non for profit and is the proud owner of her private practice, Hair Wings Counseling LLC. And it's located at 1000 Lafayette Boulevard, Bridgeport, Connecticut. That's where she serves locally, but she serves in many other areas. That's the person that you'll be hearing from today. She continues to serve in inner city population with the same passion and dedication. When not in a counseling session, Tensi ministers to her students in the beginners primary class at her church or ministers on the choir. Join us as we share this inspiring episode and welcome Tenssie Ramsay, who shares her incredible journey of abundance in service. Her experience have profoundly shaped her philosophy and led her to write a powerful book, Walking Through the Valley. Come here and let's share and listen and learn a little bit about how this wonderful, phenomenal lady serves abundantly, even while walking through her valleys. Tensie Ramsay, welcome.
Thank you, Miriam. I'm happy to be here again. Thank you
I'm
for
so
inviting
delighted.
me. Yes.
I'm delighted to have you here. And it is by no means it's an honor to have you here, and I know you have a busy schedule because your workload is packed. So I deem it an honor for you to share this time with me on this platform.
Thank you. And I deem it an honor for you to have invited me on this very prestigious platform that I've been in tune with every Monday. And I see, all the people that you have had on this program. I hope I'll be able to help those that have come on somehow.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. I know that you have gone through so many life journey, so many seasons of life, and there are numerous things. I know you personally, and I know a lot of the viewers know you, but a lot of things they don't know about you. The highs, some of the highs, some of the lows, but you have weathered so many storms. And today, we just want to showcase you and in some way just highlighting how God has been, how you have weathered the storm and how God has lifted you so you can share with the world that even through the storm, you can be abundant in service. So I'm not sure where you want to start from, but I'm just going to ask you this little question. How does, what do you, I'm getting so excited. How do you express service in your point of view?
Okay. Yeah, very good question. Thank you for asking that. Service is being there for others, being the supporter. You're supporting others, you're helping others to go through whatever they're going through, to be there with them, to hold their hand, to give them advice, to coach them. And once they've reached to their optimum, to let them go, as it were, so that they can act. And then watching that and seeing the growth in people that you help, it gives you that great feeling that you have served a purpose. You have been there for the person who is in need at their lowest.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. So just looking at the word empathy, what comes to mind when you think about that word? Because I know you're passionate where that is concerned.
Okay, so pretty much me or you or anybody just putting yourself in the place of that person, whatever that person is going through, be it grief or some kind of loss or anything negative, to put yourself in that place of that person, just pretty much saying to yourself, this could have been me, so I want to feel what this person is feeling. I want to be this person and be in the moment with the person, so you can actually walk through with them whatever they're going through. Pretty much that's what it is for me.
Awesome. I know that's who you are because it's the very thought of you being in the hospital and still sharing and still helping, although you were being helped, that is so phenomenal. I'll go back to that area later on in our discourse.
Okay.
Now, when you think of sustainability, how does that tie into abundance in service?
Well, personally, when you think about that, that's the word, to sustain, is to pretty much provide that resource or provide the avenue in which someone can move forward, and whatever it is that they're doing, that's going to be their source, or that's going to be like a permanent something that's permanent, that's there, something tangible that the person can hold on to, or as to keep them, pretty much that's what it is.
Awesome, awesome. I know you when you were living abroad before you migrated, you were involved in many of these areas where you were there as support, you were there as giving help, empathizing with the less fortunate. Do you want to go down memory lane for a little bit?
uh yeah, a little bit, just a little bit, because you know me, I do not like to to advertise or announce, but um I was one of those persons who I cared a lot for the elderly. I always cared a lot for those, the elderly or the less fortunate people, and I would try my best to be there for them, to support them in whatever way I can, not necessarily financially, but whichever way I can, I would be there for them. And even in my church that I grew up in in y'all know where I'm from. Those who don't know, Lindsay, my church that I grew up in, I remember once I thought about those persons who were around, in our midst in the congregation, who were in need. And I also looked at the wider community that I was from. And not that I was rich, but I felt like I was in, a better position, or a little bit better than some of them that I was able to help. Like I had like an excess then, or probably I would say abundance. And I thought about having a system where we could give to others. And I introduced, I don't know if a lot of people know that, but I introduced this a basket ministry where we would give somebody, a family that is in need, like every Sunday, we'll present them with a basket of little goodies for them, their family. And like I said, it was not only for the church, we had this for the community as well. And thank God it is still being, this particular ministry is still enforced, and it's bigger than when I started it, because when I started it, it was not much. But it's just like giving back to those, because sometimes, you see people in church and you know they need something, and just to extend yourself, not to just say to them, God bless you, I'll pray for you, but to give them, something tangible, something they can help get to, feed their family, an extra pair of shoe that you have that you're not wearing that looks good, just give it to them. That's what I used to do back then, and I do a little bit more that now still a little bit.
Now that is so profound because looking back, you just going down memory lane for that little bit of time, I see where your act of service has spanned so many decades. Because the church that I'm from, St. Church, they are now doing that on a larger scale. And you might not have known your little act of kindness would have spanned so far and wide. Now, still a little staying right there at home. I remember this late mother, she passed away a few weeks ago, and being in her midst, she shared so much about Tensei, Mother Hunt. Now, do you want to share a little bit about that connection that you have with Mother Hunt, abundance in service? Because she spoke about you as a servant, you as someone who's always there. Do you want to share a little bit about that connection with Mother?
Okay, she was like a mother to me, because I lost my mom years ago. So she was like a mother to me. She was, I would say, the person who held my hand to make that first letter of the alphabet, because she was my teacher. She taught me, and we call it in Jamaica basic school. She taught me in basic school. And she, I I would say I grew under her ministry. I really grew under her ministry, because she was the head of the women's department, what we call auxiliary in Jamaica. And she was the head of that. And I was a part of it. I learned to do things, learned, to cook, to sew, do little things under her ministry. And I tried to utilize what I learned and to extend myself. And I used to be around her a lot. Don't want to say much, but based on, growing around her and being with her, I extended myself to others in some way or the other, whatever she told you. Yes, I did.
You can speak freely because she shared how you were always there for her. And we're talking about abundance in service. You, as someone who served so many, and this is one aspect. So she basically shared with me how you were always there, whether it's small or great. I could count on Tensei, and she expresses it in such a way that it spans more than 40 years of abundance in service from her little until she was able to increase. She's always given, always a giver. And she's always around those persons who needed most. Those persons, mark you, she expresses how, yes, she was there as a mother figure, but you were always there for her and for many others. in in one of the scriptures they talk about even in death you speak. I'm paraphrasing now. Although Mother Hunt is no longer with us, her appreciation of you still lives on because of you serving abundantly. Your abundance in service continues even when some of the persons that you rendered those service to are no longer with us. I am grateful that you allowed God to direct you in those capacity. Now, As you move on, were there any time that you served that you felt hurt or rejected? And let me not double bar the question. Were there any time that you served that you felt rejected?
Oh, absolutely. Like I think everybody who serves, we experience that. There are moments and there are times when things happen in service that it gives you a very bad feeling and it leaves like a poor taste in your mouth because of how people that you are there for, how they treat you. And it's typically, I would say, it's human, and I don't hold it against anyone. I'm one of those persons where I tell you, I will say I am sorry at the drop of a hat, and I really mean it from my heart, because I never ever want to know that have offended anyone in any way, and I would always, like, literally be begging to say, listen, if I've harmed you in any way, let me know, because I need to say I'm sorry, because from my heart I just don't want to ever let anyone be very uncomfortable in my space. Once you're in my space, you need to feel good. And even though, like I said, things happen sometimes, people, your feelings are hurt a little bit, but at the same time, I never ever let that be a problem. I don't put it at the forefront. I let it go and I forgive and I move on, and I don't look back and say, oh, I did this for you or I did that for you, and yet you treat me bad. I just said, you know what? It is what it is. It's life, it's humans, things happen, people make mistake, and let's forget about it and start all over again. Pretty much that's what it is.
So, abundance in service gives you empathy
Oh,
and
yes.
allow you to be mindful of
Hmm.
others and their
Right.
feelings. Now, as we're on the aspect of mindfulness, how does that tie in? And you can go in depth. How does that tie in with abundance in service?
When I think about being mindful, first of all, that means you're it's like a conscious awareness of what's happening or what you're about to do. It's not just you just doing something because it looks good or it sounds good. Is you're thinking about it. You're actually, this is what I always say when I'm about to say something. I kind of like, my way of saying it, I play the tape. What does it sound like? I want to make sure it comes out the right way, because sometimes you say something and you mean no harm, but because of the space that that person is in at the moment, they're hearing something different. This is what you're saying, but they're hearing something different because of their mindset at the moment. They might have gone through maybe had a rough day or something was not going right for them, and you say something, it was not intended to be offensive, but because of that person's mind at the moment, because of where they are right now, they read something different or they hear something different, and then their reaction is going to be different. And then you, as the person who you're the communicator, know you have to be aware that this is not someone targeting you. It's not about you. It's just that the person at the moment is having a bad day or something is not going right. And so also you need to check yourself and see, what did I say? How did I say it? How could I have said it differently? So you're kind of like playing the tape before you verbalize what you have to say. So you're being mindful. You're being aware of what you're going to say before you say it. Just to be on the right, pretty much on the right foot. Be aware, the awareness of what you're going to say before you say it. Play the tape before it gets out there.
So the awareness,
Hmm.
the mindfulness and awareness helps us to listen. I'm
Effective
paraphrasing because
communication.
yes,
Effective, yeah.
I'm learning what I'm learning while you're saying. So
Yeah.
being aware and being mindful, we're able to communicate what we're saying in a way so it will not hurt
Hmm.
the person or
Hmm.
affect the person negatively.
Right.
Awesome, awesome.
Yes, yes.
Still on that line of mindfulness, how about, because I know you're in the field where you deal with persons, their emotions, and
Mhm.
you're mindful of what is being said, and
Yes.
in a regular setting, how what if after all of the tape playing and everything, and it's still the person still identify as something was said wrong, in as much as you you desire you desire the right thing, your abundance in servants in service mentality, how do
Mhm.
you pivot and help that person understand what you're trying to say?
Well, first of all, if there's a misunderstanding, as to what I was trying to say, I'll also I'll ask the person, my client, I'll say to them like, just tell me what you heard. Tell me what you heard, first of all, because you want to make sure that you're understanding what this person said. Tell me what you heard. And whatever you heard, what did it mean to you? How did it affect you? Let me know, because I want to make this right. And based on their answer, then I could take it, I could segue into what I'm trying to say. This is what I'm trying to say, or this is a message that I'm trying to convey to you. This is what you heard. That's not what I'm trying to convey to you. This is what I'm saying. And I'm going to stay with that person until that person understands, exactly, and is comfortable and feel safe again, because you don't want to push that person away. You say something and the person no longer trusts you, or the person feels, unsafe in your company. You want the person to be safe. You want the person to feel, yes, I am being heard. She's validating my feeling, and that makes me feel like, yes, I'm someone important to her, because she took the time out to ensure that I understand exactly what she's saying. So you spend time, it's a matter of just going over whatever, asking them, let me hear what you heard. Tell me what it meant to you. What is there something that I said that triggered this reaction from you? So you spend time to understand, the person.
Powerful. You said a word, abundance in service, being aware and making sure that you understand the person so that you are not triggering or whatever response was triggered, you're able to help them and bring them back. But and that ties in with your empathy, understanding and sharing and listening and I'm seeing where all of what you have learned, all of what you have developed, all of your service, I'm seeing that coming together. Abundance in service. You're being empathic, you're generous,
Mhm.
and the list goes on.
Yeah.
Now, I know that you have had some rough bumps. You have gone over some rough bumps. You have not only traveled on the smooth highways of life, but you have dropped in some potholes where ill health is concerned, and you have climbed the mountains and surf the smooth areas. Now, tell us a little bit about that, because while you're going through those rough areas, you were still serving.
Okay. If I could go back, it's not 2025.
Hmm.
Wow, it's almost 3 years ago. 2022. Ooh, almost, yeah, almost 3 years ago. 2022, when I became sick, and I did a procedure, and it was a procedure gone bad. I did a procedure, and the procedure, which was supposed to be an in and out procedure, it became more than an in and out. In and out, in a sense, yes, because it wasn't one day in and one day out. It took me longer than that. And it was November 15, 2022. can't forget that date. And my last day in the hospital, when I got out of the hospital, was January 17, 2023. So
Never forget those dates, huh?
no, no, I will never forget those dates. Those dates are very important to me, and they're very critical in my life, and they're life changing. Yes, and so yes, I became very sick, and I was in and out of hospital. I went through terrible sickness. It got to the point where like the doctors, they didn't know what to do. They, according to the doctor, they did everything that was possible, and nothing seemed to have been working. So they gave up. But I didn't give up. I wasn't able to do much communication because, for the most part, family were the ones who answered my phone and responded to texts and everything. But through it all, I was, I was off. I tried my best to be a very high spirit. Like, I remember in one particular case, someone came to see me at the hospital, and she looked sad. And I said, "Why are you looking so sad?" And she said, "I'm not accustomed to seeing you like this." I said, "I'm not dead. Come on, cheer up." I tried to make light of the situation. You know, Another friend called me, and she was so concerned. And I jokingly, I said to her, I said, "Well, Jesus spent 40 days and 40 nights in the wilderness fasting. And I'm now 53 days in the wilderness." I just made light of the situation as much as, the signs were there. My body was, deteriorating. Things were happening that were not the norm. I tried to my faith to, to be at the place where it rose so much in God. And, yesterday, I have to just segue to this. Yesterday at church, I I was so emotional at one point because the song that the choir sang, I remember I sat down in the living room. I came out, that was like my second rodeo in and out of the hospital.
Mm-hmm.
And I sat on the side of the bed, and I just leaned my head sideways and rested it on my daughter, and I just started singing, "I trust in God." And by the time I said I trust in God, I just started crying. I couldn't say no more. And
Wow.
I was just crying, crying. And then I stopped crying and I said, I trust in God. I know He cares for me. And I broke down again. I started crying. And I'm like, I don't know why that song came to me, but I just felt like the Holy Spirit just brought it to me, and it brought a consolation. But I was just crying, but the crying was not like a crying because I was really sorrowful. I was crying because I'm like, you gave me this song. There must be a reason why, you know? But it was just at that time I felt like my faith rose to a different high. I'm like, wait, that song, I trust in God. I know
So it
He
was
cares for
tears
me.
of gratitude.
Yes. And I was just
Wow.
crying. I was like, oh my God. Because, to be honest, during that time, I never felt sorry for myself. I sometimes, when I was able to, I would just laugh. And I was, I was said to God one day, I was like, "God, I guess you're going to take me before my son graduate from college. I'm not going to see my last child graduate from college." I said, "But anyway, I know he'll be taken care of. I know he'll be fine." And I'm like, that I lay down on that bed in the hospital, and I said, "I would have loved to see him graduate, God, but if that's what you want, if that's what's going to happen," I just resigned myself to the fact, like, whatever happens. And I said, "God, even if you don't heal me, you're still God. Even if you don't heal me, you're still God. So I'm not going to let anything bother me." And, I got so much prayers, text prayers. People were praying for me like all over. Calls were coming in. And, it helped to build my faith more, to say, God, I got a whole village supporting me, in prayer. Right. So, yeah, pretty much, without going in details, my sickness made me stronger, much stronger, I must say.
I know why while you were in the hospital, that you were also in your abundance in service, going through your sickness, you were there ministering to the doctors. Tell me a
Yeah.
little bit about that because I know they marvel at the Tensei
Yes.
who they're serving and you are also serving them.
Yes, yes, because there are times, there were days when it was like I was really down, there was a lot of pain racking my body. Nurses coming in, giving me medication, whatever. And, one of the nurse, she looked at me and she said, "What is it about you?" And I'm like, what do you mean? She said, and she turned to my daughter was in the room and she said to my daughter, "I don't know if you realize how sick your mom is, but your mom is very sick." And she said, "I've never stepped in this room and seen her looking sad. She's either smiling or she's either humming a song. And it doesn't matter what happened. She's never, like lost her temper or anything, or she's just so calm. Like we come and we'd say to her, like, we have a medication. And the most she would say, can I get it later? Because I'm tired, you know." She doesn't like say, "Get out of the room." And she said, "Wow." And my daughter said, "That's how she is." That's how she said, "Wow." And it goes to show that there are some people that we serve. That's what the nurse said, that we serve, and their temperament is indicative of who they really are. Because she is so calm, she's so calm. Another nurse came in the room. She said, she was a nurse manager. She said, "You're not on my caseload, but I hear so much about you and your room." I'm like, whoa, this is like I'm at the Waldorf Astoria. What is this? Is this a hospital? She said, so she came in my room and she said, "Oh, they are right." I said, what is going on that I don't know? She said, "There's this peace in your room." She said, "I
Wow.
could sit here." She said, "All I need are just some candles and some soft music." And I was
Oh,
laughing. I was like, "This is a hospital, nurse." She said, "Yes, but there's this something." And I looked at her. I said, "Nurse, you know what it is? It's the prayers that have gone up in this room. Because prayers have been going up in this room. This room is like a chapel. Room is like some real prayers go up in this place. You know what I mean? On the phone, by voice note, or physically, people coming in and praying for me." She said, "Yes, your room is so peaceful." She said, "On my break time, can I come hang out in here?" And I'm like, "Sure." you know.
wow.
And yes, nurses would come and say, I'm on break, Miss Ramsey. I'm just going to hang out in your room." I'm like, "Okay." Because they found that peace and that solace. I said, because of the prayers that have gone up in this room. And when the doctor looked at me and told me that there was nothing else that they could do, they have tried everything and they wish they could do something else. And I looked at him and I said, "Doctor, you have tried everything that you can, and you're human. I get it. And it's okay to feel this way. The rest is up to my God." And he said, "What did you say?" I don't know if he believes in God or anything, but I repeated it. I said, "The rest is up to my God." And he turned to my sister who was in the room then, and he said to my sister, "Do you have any questions for me? Because there's nothing else we can do for your sister. Her body is not, everything has been rejected. No medication, nothing that we try is working, and we don't know what else to do." They had clipboards, it's like a whole group of doctors and the interns, and they had clipboards. Some of them looking at me, he looked sad. And I literally looked up and smiled, and I looked at the doctor and I said, "Doctor, you okay?" And he just shook his head because I guess they gave up. And my sister said, "Whatever my sister said, I support it. The rest is up to her God." And I support it. Yeah, I could go on and on.
Powerful, powerful. I am just absorbing what you're saying because the nurse wants to come in your room while they're on break. So you're there being served and you're also there giving service. It's like just pausing here, feeling that awesome feeling of, I want to be where she is. I know it's the hospital, but I want to be where she is. And just thinking about what the doctors say when they literally reached a brick wall.
Mhm.
And I know you going back to look for them and them seeing the person who they served and who was being served by them or who gave them service. I know they're in awe because you shared
Mhm.
that with
Yes.
me.
Yes.
Powerful, powerful. It brings me to this little segment where through your journey of sickness, you were inspired to write your book. And it started dedication. This book is dedicated to my family who had exhibited patience and care for me, and to all the people of God who continually lifted me up in their prayers during my sickness. I am elated. I am honored to share this moment with you. And as I scroll through the book, why don't you share with me exactly when this inspiration started and how it propelled you to document in your book? Just share a little bit.
Well, to be honest, one of my friends who visited with me, she said to me, I hope you're gonna write. So I said, I don't know. This was after my second time out of the hospital because, like I said, I was in and out. And then I thought about it and I said, I don't know. I don't know if I have the strength to do it. And I ran it by my husband and he said, yeah, you should write it. But I said, I don't know. My sister said, you should write it. You should put it out here. Let everybody know, share your testimony. Camille said it. Those who don't those who don't know who I'm talking, it's Miriam. Camille. She came to look for me at the hospital and she said, sis, I hope you're gonna write. I said, I don't know, I'll try. So after the second time out of the hospital, I tried. I said to my daughter, get me my laptop, let me start to, as I remember everything, let me start to just put notes down and like maybe two or three paragraphs in, I became sick again and I ended up in the hospital. So that was just saved and put aside. And so every time I go in and out, and like she would bring me my laptop in the hospital, and I would, some days I would just jot down like little notes of what's going on when I'm feeling well. And when I'm not feeling well, it would be taken away. And then what I would say between December 31st, 2022, when December 31st, yes, I remember when that was my final time back in the hospital after being in and out a couple times. And while I was there, I literally was like, this is December 31st. Who wants to be in a hospital December 31st? I hope they just see me and just tell me to go, whatever. But it would not be so because the doctor who saw me, he said, no, we cannot send you home. You got to stay. This thing is we got to get to the bottom of it. When he looked on the computer and look at everything. He's like, and he checked and he said, you've been in here so many times and we have to find this thing out. Just backing up a little bit. And, the long and short of it all, I was inspired. And Pastor Nerico, yeah, he was one of my biggest inspirators too. He encouraged me, to write my story. And he was one of my proofreaders too, because he said, yes, people need to know, about what you go through. And it's a testimony. It's about me. It's not about anybody. So I'm talking about what happened with me. So I was inspired. It took me a little while. Like I said, I stopped and I go, I stopped and I go. It's according to how I felt. I kept, on and off until finally, August last year, August 2023. Yeah, I finally, put things together, finally got everything together. And again, Pastor Nerica was the one who directed me to his publisher and everything. And, that was it. The rest was history. got it done. I got my testimony out there. And, I say, I just want others to know and to bring hope to people. It's just for people to know that if you're going through a situation, and even if the doctor says so, to tell yourself that, listen, if God, the will of God has to be done in your life. And if God has a purpose on your life, you're not going to go anywhere. Your purpose has to be fulfilled. Has to be fulfilled.
Say that again.
If
If
God
God,
has if purpose is on your life, and if God has made a promise to you, or there's purpose on your life, it must be fulfilled. It must be fulfilled. And years ago, this is a little bit of a joke. Years ago, I remember we had Kingdom Focus at my church, and it was in a day session. And for those who know, Bishop Agri Scott, I'll call his name public because he's in the public. I remember he was teaching, and he was talking about, having faith in God and believing that whatever God says, God is not going to go back on his word. He stands by his word. And I'll never forget, he said, if God makes you a promise, he's going to keep that promise. And he said, sisters, if God promised you that you're going to marry to a tall, dark, handsome young man, and you get sick and you're in the hospital and you're laying on that hospital bed and you did not get married yet, and if the doctor said you're going to die, say, doctor, I cannot die. Because God say, I'm going to marry to a tall, dark, handsome young man, and I'm not married yet. So I can't die. So whatever promise God has made to you,
amen.
promise is not yet fulfilled. He's going to keep the promise. So you can't go
Amen.
anywhere.
Amen. 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 So if God made a promise, you won't die until that promise is fulfilled. It brings
Yes.
me to page 16 of your book, My Journey Through Sickness, Walking Through the Valley, page 16. And the song you alluded to, it's right on that page. I'm just reading a little excerpt. You said, I was falling in and out of sleep. And in my mind, I could hear this beautiful song being sung in my pastor's voice.
Mm-hmm.
I trust in God. And can you sing that song again for me? The two verses. Wherever I may be, and I know he cares for me. Yes, you heard. And if you want to sing it in your pastor's voice, you can sing it too. You can just
Oh my God. You're putting me on the spot, Miriam. Can you sing it for me? Can I
yeah, you're
can
on
I
the
flip it
spot.
around?
I trust in God. You can do it. Good.
I trust in God. I know he cares for me. Mm, okay.
Okay, I will say it. Chapter 6. I trust in God. I know He cares for me. And the tears she's crying are tears of joy. On mountain peak or on the stormy sea, though billows roll, He keeps my soul. My heavenly Father watches over me. Chapter 8, when she talks about my vision, you alluded to Psalm 121, verses 1 and 2. I will lift up mine eyes unto the hills, from whence cometh my help. My help cometh from the Lord, which made heaven and earth. Why did you use that scripture? And what did it do for you in my vision, chapter 8?
In that in that scenario, I was like I was sleeping, and like I felt like I was back in Jamaica. Like someone came and they took me outside, but it was like an out of body experience. Like I was placed on a stretcher and I was put outside. And while I was there, and I felt like I was back where I'm from my house where I was born, that area. But I was on a stretcher on the outside, and like everybody was passing me. They were just going up and down. Nobody paid me any attention, and like I literally like heard a voice say that I'm to look up, and I look up, and when I look up, I was looking in the eyes of my Jesus.
Mm.
And when I looked up, and I was like, it was January 11, 2023. I'll never forget. And I looked up and I saw the look of compassion in his eyes. And I said, Jesus, I've never seen compassion like this before. Like, that's for me. And it just touched me in the dream or the vision, whatever it was. It just, I was like, wow. And as I continued to look, it's like just the both of us having that experience, because people were passing me going up and down. They were just passing me laying, because I was laying down there, like I was left to die. And while I was looking up, and I was like talking to Jesus, but he wasn't answering me. He was just looking, and the look in his eyes, I'm doing like it's in the vision. A look in his eyes, it was just there. And I was like, wow. And while I continued to look, he didn't say anything while I continued to look. I saw tears welled up in the side of his eyes. And I said, you're crying for me like you did for Lazarus? And I didn't know I was talking this out, because it was in the hospital. It was in the night, because they took turns and stay in the hospital with me on a chair in the room. And my sister said she woke up and heard me talking, but she didn't say anything. She just leave me alone. So I was talking. So when I woke up and told her, she said, "Yeah, I heard everything you said." So I was saying, like, you have tears in your eyes. I said, you're crying for me like you did for Lazarus? I said, Jesus, you love me that much? And I was talking to him and he didn't answer. And the tears, like it welled up in the side of his eyes. And it came out of his eyes. And I was laying down there looking up at him. And then I saw the tears coming out of his eyes. I was coming down. And it dropped right in the spot, the same spot where I got the surgery. Like when it hit that spot, it felt like something heavy hit my stomach. It wasn't like it was a tear, it was something heavy in my stomach. And I jumped up and I said, I'm healed, I'm healed. And I didn't know I was talking it. I was verbalizing it. I didn't know I was talking it out. And I jumped up, and because I was strung up at that, because at the time I was on feed tube and I had different things. So I was strung up, and my sister called for the nurse because I was just all over the place. And the nurse came and said, "No, she need to calm down because she has all these things." And I'm like, "Nurse, nurse, nurse, you don't get it. I'm healed, I'm healed, I'm healed." And the nurse was like, "What?" I said, "Jesus healed me, nurse. Jesus healed me. Jesus healed me." And my sister said, I heard her talking. I heard her in conversation, and I didn't wake her up because I didn't know who she was talking to. I just left her there. And I was just excited. And I was like, "Nurse, I'm healed. You don't get it. I'm healed." And she said, "Okay, I need to get in touch with your doctor." I said, "Yeah, just let doctor know I'm healed." I said, "Take this thing off me." She said, "I can't do that. I have to wait." I was just
You had
excited.
her panic, right?
Yeah, I was like, yeah. I'm like, "Nurse, nurse." I said, "I want to eat." No, I want to eat. She said, "No, it doesn't work like that, because we have to wean you off this, because you've been fed through this tube for this time. So we have to wean you off this." And I said, "Okay, okay." And she tried to calm me, because I don't know, maybe she felt I was delusional. But I was like, "Okay." And I said, "Sis, I'm healed. God healed me, sis. I'm healed. I'm healed." She said, "Yes, I believe you." And the tears were flowing on her face. And she took up her phone, and I know she was texting. She was telling everybody. Afterwards, she told me she was sending out texts and said, "Something happened." I knew she was talking. Something happened. She said she's healed, and that's it. And then I said, "I want to go to the bathroom. Can I go to the bathroom?" The nurse said, "You can't go alone." I said, "Yeah, I'll hold a pole." I was like, I came back from wherever I was. It was just an exciting experience. And every time I think about it, I have this feeling like I kept doing like this, and I'm looking up to see, to get this vision again. It was just so surreal. Yeah. Yeah.
You were like a child. Now,
Yes.
Viewers, if you, not if, I know you are interested to hear the rest of her story. The information for her book is in the chat, and you'll also find it on my YouTube channel. So make sure you get a copy of this book. It's easy read and it will lift your faith. It will increase your faith in reminding you that once God made your promise, no matter what, he will honor his
Yeah.
promise to you. He will honor his promise to you. Now, we are winding down our conversation. It's not the end. This is just part one. But in summary, just share with us what would you want them to, something impactful you'd want to leave with them this evening.
Okay, you know, I just want to say to everyone out there, when it comes on to service or serving, please don't expect that the returns might be what you're looking for at all times. Because, like I say to people in my field, if I wanted to make money, I would not be in that field, that particular field. But the blessing you get out of service is when you impact the life of somebody. You reach someone who has given up, maybe someone who they're at their end, and you reach out to them, or you're there for them, you support them in whatever way you can. Words of encouragement, an encouraging text, a quick call, or if you have the money to give, to give to them and help them out in a situation. When you serve, do not expect returns here, but you know that God is going to give you a reward for sure. And whatever you're doing, my mom would say, what your right hand does, you don't have to make your left hand know. In other words, you don't have to blow a trumpet or sound the alarm that I'm doing this. In your own secret way, in your own private way, you can be of support to someone, be there for someone, and be genuine, be real. Don't fake it. Be real, because people are able to recognize someone who is real from afar, right? Black is black, white is white. There are no shades of gray in my book. And that's how it is supposed to be. Be very real, be very genuine, and also be consistent. Be consistent. And just speak the truth. Whatever you're doing, be very truthful, and you're going to support, you're going to be there for someone, you're going to help them to walk through. And when they share with you, they share with you. It's for you. They didn't tell you to put it on radio free wherever you are. It's for you. They're sharing with you. And if someone confident you and give you some information or say something to you, please keep that information. It is sacred. It's some if it's as long as they're not planning to harm themselves or harm someone. But anything else, you're at liberty. Keep it, hold it, be there for them. Pray for and with them. Pray for and with them. You know what I mean? And be there, and whatever you can do. If you cannot, provide, like, say, for example, finances, but prayer is key. Prayer works. Pray for someone. Not just say to them, I'm praying for you, but please do it. And also, not to be ashamed to declare who you are. You're out there somewhere. I'm out there somewhere. In my practice, sometimes my sessions are like prayer meetings. I'm not afraid to say that. There are some sessions that I know, I started with prayer, and with prayer, it depends on the need. I'm not like I'm pushing my beliefs on anyone, but they know who I am from the beginning, that I'm a child of God and I'm a born again Christian, and I'm not afraid, I'm not ashamed to say that and to declare it. And I am who I am. I say to them, when you see me, what you see is what you get. Wherever I am, at work, at church, on the road, I am who I am. I am who I am. I never ever try to be anybody else. Just be real and be genuine. And in helping people, like I said, be real about it. Be genuine. Do it out of your heart. Do it not expecting returns. Do it because it's the right thing to do to help others. And that's what I would say to everyone out there. Whatever way you can, please be there, support others, be there for them. Listen, celebrate with your friend, clap with them. And if they're crying, be there for them. Be the shoulder they can lean on. Cry with them too sometimes. Sometimes we have to cry with our friends. We have to be there for them, not to leave them alone. Walk with them. And if they end up in a situation that doesn't look good, be there with them. Stay with them. Support them. Don't leave them alone. Validate their feelings and pray. Pray always for your friends, your family, others. Just pray. That helps. It's the key.
Wow, wow, wow. All of these words I'm thinking about while you're talking: empathy, generosity,
Mhm,
gratitude, uh, mindfulness, collaboration,
mhm,
sustainability,
mhm.
impactful. These words encompass all of Tenssie Ramsay this evening. And while she does what she does, she serves in abundance. Abundance in service while strong, abundance in service while being served in the hospital. This is the testament of someone who God has created and is walking in her purpose no matter what. Tensei, it was an honor to have you on this platform sharing abundance in service. I normally check to see if there were any questions, but let me just check quickly. I would not want you to leave and someone have a question and I did not get a chance to, they did not get a chance to have you answer. Okay, so there are no questions, they're just accolades, embracing what you're saying and loving on you for your vulnerability. Thank you so much for sharing. And I know very soon you'll be coming back to share with us the next phase of your journey. Thank you for joining
Thank you for
Mindset
having me.
Monday.
Thank you for
Viewers,
having me.
thank you so much for sharing with us. Thank you so much for listening. And for those who haven't subscribed, make sure you subscribe and hit notification all. So when these wonderful guests are showing up, you will not miss anything. Until next week, I want you to have a wonderful week while you are mindful on anything that you're doing in life. Now, this is another episode of Mindset Monday.